Good to go.
Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Chad, can you do the roll call?
Supervisor Craig. Supervisor Thorne.
Here.
Chairman Schaller.
Here.
Supervisor Wolford.
Yes, here.
And Supervisor Bromer is excused.
Can I go to get a motion to go into public comment?
So moved.
Motion by Bob, second by Kelsey.
This is
Any further discussion? Are all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. We're in public comment. Bruce, got any for us?
Yeah, I was wondering whose bright idea it was to have it 4 o'clock in the afternoon instead of at night when people want to come, they can come. Anybody got an answer?
For budget working session,
That's it.
like it was board concurrent, and I don't think anybody in the meeting at that time, before or after, had any issue with it. So
It should be open for people to at least.
it is open. It is open.
I'm
And
talking
we had the
about hours that
conversation.
It's open after supper so people can go home, eat, take care of the kids, and come back and.
Right on, Bruce. I get what you're saying.
Well, that's the reason.
I don't. And when we brought it up in our regular meeting, we discussed it when we were going to have it, and nobody seemed to have. I believe you were there, and nobody seemed to care that it was F4.
What's the mill rate right now, Chad?
I won't have those numbers until I get all
I mean,
the
for this year before going into it.
21 point something. I don't know exactly what it is, but
Okay.
it'll probably by the end of this, it'll go down. I'm thinking at least in the 18s, maybe 19s.
Yeah, because the level is changing as the assessment, so that's going to bring the mill rate down overall.
Going to be able to ask questions throughout the process, or once this is over, it's over, or what?
Well, just like anyone before, Bruce, this is very preliminary. This is going to be pretty quick, so we'll have another. I'm sure we'll have another session before we have the actual hearing for it. So this was more so for me to get the numbers that everybody presented out to everybody so they can take a look at it, because we're over. I mean, regardless, everyone's going to have to go back to the drawing board and do some adjustments. So
It's the exact same scenario, pretty much every year.
pretty much every year, that's the way it usually goes. So. But yeah, the mill rates and stuff, Bruce, I won't have until the school district levy. It doesn't come out till about the 10th of November.
Yeah, just wondering what our mill rate was for
Oh, yeah.
17.
Yeah, I don't have that exact number. It was 21
Something.
something.
Okay.
It's actually 3 meetings together tonight. The first one's the utility fund, and then the second one's for regarding sewer rates, and then the second one would be or third one, I'm sorry, would be for the real estate and property tax assessment. It's actually 3 meetings tonight. So, anything else for us? Can I get a motion to close? Oh. Sorry, Keith.
So I've come up with a wants and needs list. That
Denied.
Would sort of like to recommend that every department puts it together. I talked to all of you about this, and it would help for future plans, so. We'll have to come up with, it's not a complete list, but.
Move to reject.
But it is what it is, and it's got some good stuff, it's got little stuff, so. I know you're not gonna look at it all and say yes and no right now today, but
Yep.
over the next few years, maybe we can get some of it done. I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Actually, this is very beneficial. Move to close public comment.
I'll second that. I have a motion by Bob, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to business. Working session for 2018 Town of Campbell General Fund and Utility Fund budget.
So what I've done here is giving you the detailed budget worksheet here. Just like any year except for the two new ones, should look pretty familiar. You have your actuals from 16, 17, projected year-end totals. Some of those numbers are pretty set in stone. Some of them are my best guess. And then it relates to our 2017 budget. And then I took all the numbers that everybody submitted to me on the proposed budget line item for 2018. Again, most of that was submitted by you. There are a few things in here that I don't know. You know, again, it's all best guess scenario stuff. Based on everybody's wants and needs, really where it comes down to is on page 3. Almost the last line, that fund balance. We're approximately $730,024.13 short. So this is where it gets creative. Now I know some of this, obviously $500,000 is from what the fire department was asking for their fire truck. We have approximately $61,000 that's left from the streets and roads projects that I can determine, so you can take that out of there. $70,000 was from what Mitch has requested for the asphalt out there. So when you start taking out all of these things that we've talked about in the past, that $730,000 really comes down to probably around $62,000 or $82,000, somewhere in there. Right now, our fund balance is about just a little over 1.2 million. So, just to remember, I don't see any problems with the budget this year that's going to lower our fund balance from this year to next year. So, I would anticipate we're still going to be at about 1.2 million. So, anything that we use out of reserve funds next year obviously comes off that 1.2, but that's kind of what some of that reserve funds are supposed to be for, is projects and things that we need around here. So
What was the 61,000 for?
that's the remaining from what I can see, what's left from the punch list and what was held back in retention from the streets and roads project, about $61,000.
So the spillway income, Fish and Wildlife just quit paying donation or paying their. So you haven't collected that for a few years, huh?
Which one?
The spillway income.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't seen that since I've been here.
They used to come and give us a check for letting them use it.
Oh really? I didn't.
Apparently decided to quit doing that, I'm guessing.
You know, again, some of these numbers, some of the incomes are best case scenario, kind of guessing. You know, this isn't an exact science, obviously. You know, next year we do have, you know, that skipper liner loan is paid off next year, so that'll come off our roll, which is always a good thing when you pay off debt. Trying to think of some of the other things here. I mean, to me, it's pretty cut and dry where you're at. I mean, obviously, like I said, there's numbers that have to be moved. We either take it from the reserve funds, we don't fund projects. You know, part of that $500,000 for the fire truck again is that's all financing from the town. You know, if you do any kind of you know, if you are to choose to go that route, there are financing sources that would make up, you know, some of that. So there's a lot of different options and things here that could be moving pieces. I'm just giving you the nuts and bolts of what we have. For the new ones over there, are you understandable? Are you following? Okay. I just work with it all the time, so I'm very familiar with it.
And then,
It's under office staff.
oh, okay.
Half of my salary is done through office staff, the other half is done through the utility office staff. I think the clerk thing has been there since way back when there was a designated clerk and a designated treasurer.
Yeah. Many moons ago, it was an elected position, wasn't
I think you're right.
What's that?
it?
Elected clerk treasurer.
Clerk and treasurer, was that elected position?
Yeah,
Originally
back
it was.
Jerry Weiss was
Yeah.
probably the last one, wasn't he, Bruce? Maybe.
I think there was one woman after that.
Mm.
So for me, I just look at page 3.
It's like watching paint dry, isn't it?
It is. So 7:30.
Not try yet.
So last year, or this year for so last year we budgeted 636, 491.
Yes.
And our revenues. $417,937.
Actually, in total, the revenues was 2.4 million budgeted. But again, 636,000 of that was from fund balance,
From what's that?
from the fund balance, which again, most of it was like 498,000 was from the streets payment. The rest of it was stuff that we had agreed upon that year to roll over from the previous year. I mean, if it makes anybody feel any better, our fund balance a couple of years ago was about 864,000. So, I mean, really, we're really doing pretty strong. There is some additional funding in the reserve for projects and stuff. I mean, considering where we come from, you know. So, I just stress that spending some of it is not always a bad thing.
Does the federal government tell us we have to have $1 million of that for projects?
Nope, they're only guidelines. They only recommend what should be in a reserve fund, but they don't. You know, it really comes down to what the constituents think about it. You know, I mean, if you got $6 million in a reserve fund on a $1.8 million a year budget, they're going to start to wonder why. You know, if you don't have anything earmarked. So
Yeah, I thought maybe that money had to be earmarked for something.
no, there's been guidelines that says 10% of your annual operating budget. Some people go as high as 50. Obviously, we're above 50, so we're pretty healthy. Pretty healthy reserve, but. Thank you. Todd? But we want to get a little bit of questions out of the way. My goal tonight, again, was just to show you the numbers, kind of see where we're at, and know that, kind of where some of your options are. That, I think every department is probably going to have to look a little bit at their budgets and do a little bit of trimming. It'd be easy to eat the 63,000 this year, but you do that every year, our reserve will be empty in 5 years. So
I got 99. And we started out at 730, right? And
What's that?
We're at 730, we're over.
yeah,
Okay, and then minus like the fire truck would be 500, brings it down to 230.
yep,
And 61 is remaining, bring it down to 169.
yep,
Minus 70 brings it down to 99 for the blacktop for the maintenance shop.
yep. There's 11,000 that I have budgeted in there for some new controllers with air conditioning and things.
Okay.
That's where I came down to about 88.
The controllers would be like the thermal control.
Yeah, although I don't necessarily know if I'm going to need to push that or not. Everything seems to be working all right now. But we were having some issues there for a little bit with the controllers getting outdated. But they seem to be working fine now, so I don't know if that's an issue, but it's in there.
Did Mitch have anything in here on that back door, but over there, starting to rust out on the bottom?
Nope,
Oh, okay.
nope.
So last year was really one of the first years we had taken anything out of the fund balance and applied to major in a while.
In a while, but the fund balance grew from 860 to like 1.6 million
Yep.
because we put all that money that we borrowed from the roads
Yep.
into it, and we didn't pay for it
Yep.
until
Yeah, this year.
this year. So yes and no. I mean, it grew, but once we paid down, and we grew it considerably with that 100, say 150,000 that we rolled over, and then we used it.
Yep.
So
So right now, fund balance is at
just over 1.2 million.
still.
Yeah. And that's why I was saying when I look at it couple years ago, we were at 864.
Yep, I remember.
We've been. I think when I first got here, we were maybe around 680ish or something, and it's grown about 840. And then with these lines of expenses and revenues, we've grown, and we're still about 1.2. So
Well, we had some of that other debt we were trying to pay off, and that kind of kept it for a little bit. We paid that out of the fund balance initially, and then tried to balance that out. So now it's back
yeah,
in good shape, but I just don't know how much of that I want to keep applying to the.
and that's where it becomes difficult for you guys to determine kind of what you find is a reasonable amount to pull out of there. Again, I mean, when you talk about some of these projects that the project out here alone, there isn't a whole lot of money that we can't. I mean, we're going to have to pull some money out to do that kind of stuff if we're going to do it. And I don't know, Kelsey, did any of your numbers include what for the trees?
No,
So there's that potential as well.
because we had talked that should probably come out of this kind of budget.
So, I mean, part of that in that conversation, I talked to a couple of folks, different ones, and I think there's an expectation by the residents that we're going to come and cut everybody's trees versus the ones that we own that are in a public area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to have, that expectation is going to have to be set because that may change dramatically what the cost is.
Oh, yeah.
There's only 77 trees.
How many?
Only
77?
77. One tree did get missed.
Okay.
I had
77 in public?
that need to come down.
Are
But
they-
let's say they charge us $500 a tree though.
If they charge us 600, I think it
It's
was
almost
like
$40,000.
$46,000 or something was what my math was.
So there's 77 that are on right away or town property.
That need to
That
come.
they've marked, yeah.
They've marked more than that, but those are the ones that are
Yeah.
going to be a problem for us.
And I guess, again, I want to be very clear on the ones that we know that are Campbell property or right away versus ones that, okay.
If there's any that are super close, we'll have to get back out with a measuring tape and check. But, I mean,
Yeah.
things shift.
But from a budgeting perspective, again, that's another piece of it that we have to factor in is that
They
is
just got the
the
calls on
trees.
Monday, so. Excuse me, I got them on Friday, but I was at a wedding, so I wasn't.
Yeah.
watching.
Wedding season. I mean, because to me, I mean, we know that that's a legit issue, and I mean, we know that's an increase in the budget that we had budgeted before. So I don't know how long you can stretch that one out. If they start falling down, then we get the limbs. So, and that's the 77K you have in there. You said, or no?
No, actually, in the other pieces of there, she broke down her
But
capital
so that
outlay.
can change because we extended the concrete already.
Was it in this?
Oh, you get a fancy little packet thing.
everyone's got four pieces of it. They have the general fund budget, the utility fund budget, the packet that has everybody's submitted budgets, which you got there, and then the one piece was the levy limit worksheets, just to show what our actual levy is. I don't know how extensive you guys want to get into it right now today. Again, my whole thought was that at least you have the numbers. You can all take it home. I'm in every day. You can come talk to me about them.
Yep.
Bottom line is, again, the budget's tight. It's high. We're over, no matter how you put it. So, at our next meeting, hopefully you guys can come to some agreements and we can get this balanced. The tricky part is nobody ever likes it because nobody wants to give up anything, but reality is I can't get us any more revenue. I'm stuck.
So we actually made 15,000 on revenue for boat landing.
Yeah, actually we're over that. We're a little over that this year. Almost 17, I think, by the end of the year, which is phenomenal. I mean, best year we've had.
A couple little subtle changes.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if part of it, I think, honestly, is the police department being out there. I think they busted enough people.
Yeah.
The enforcement of it is getting people to come in.
Money from our tickets goes to that too, doesn't it?
No, nope, nope.
I heard the fishing's been really good.
What's that?
I heard the fishing's been really good.
I think it's the enforcement. I just think that the added enforcement has forced people to come in and buy them.
Well, it's right,
So-
that fine one towards their permit.
Yeah, but I'm still breaking it down. $20 is going into the parking fees
Okay.
revenue side, parking fines, and then the $15 is going towards the boat launch. So
Just a point of contention going forward. I know we've casually talked about that, but that would be really the change of that to be a parking permit anyway, not just a boat launch. Because if they get parked, a lot of use that's not getting. I mean, you may have just general parking for kayak or whatever launch that they never pay for a permit. So, anyway,
Yeah.
different time for a conversation, I guess. Okay, well,
I
know we have to cut.
I know Chief Malcolm. Do you have any comments, suggestions since you're here? I know you took some time out of your day. I appreciate that.
Just wanted to be available for any questions.
Kind of, but
It's always a tough part of the year. My favorite, but
my least favorite. So with the new fire truck in there, if we left it right as it is, we're 53K approximately over. I need that hard number, I guess, is what I'm looking at. You're saying if you apply 730 to it, we're
730 if we leave everything status quo. There's no other funding sources.
Right.
Nothing.
Yep.
If you pull it out entirely, you're at 230 that we're over. That still has to come out of the reserves.
Yep.
But like I said, we anticipated knowing that some of that money was coming out of the reserves anyways with the construction on the pavement. Now whether or not that's done in 2 years or 1 year, there's a couple other big capital outlay projects that we have. I know Parks and Rec has requested quite a bit again, but for the most part, a lot of these expenses are, they're pretty set. Not a lot of wiggle room in any of them.
Yes. I know that's true.
like I said, the 11,000 from general building here was something that could probably, that may not be a real issue, although I would like to maybe request a new heater furnace unit. I mean, it's how old, 25 years?
20 years, I heard.
20 years old. And we get a lot of moisture in the building. It's very damaging to all the documents and things that we have. It'd be nice to maybe have one that maybe has a dehumidifier built in, so we can.
Dehumidifier for summer?
Yeah, there's just a lot of days where I come in and you can just feel the moisture in the paper. It's bad. And with records retentions and things like that, it'd be nice if we had something a little bit more temperature controlled and up to date. You know, that's something that I would really like us to look into. But again, I realize with everything short, you're probably again looking at reserve funds to cover a new unit. So, but I don't know where that lies on everybody's priority levels.
Work to do, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, you know, we're going to have to set another date, you know, whatever works for you guys, to bring this back after you guys have taken it home, had a chance to look at it. Come see me if you have some questions on that. You know, I don't know what else to say.
I've talked with Chad about this, and Bob and I met one time. Instead of going with a new fire truck, maybe we can go with one that's only like 3 years old. Our assessor there says his brother sells.
My niece's husband owns, him and his father own an equipment company, and they sell all over the state in Minnesota.
Mostly old stuff though? Or
They do handle with some used equipment too, yeah.
is it real old or is it?
It varies, it can vary. Like I know they just sold City of Wausau some stuff last year, the year before, and they got rid of some equipment that was really pretty nice, yeah. So, and they don't really like to do a lot with the used stuff because it's not worth a whole lot. But they may know of departments too that are trying to get rid of stuff. So, yeah, I just had one municipality that did buy a used fire truck about 2 years ago.
I know when we talked to the fire department, or we talked to chief on that too, that's that whole retrofitting. Once you're done, I know, what'd you say? And I know we looked at it, I was trying to find one that, you know. But if you could, come up with one, or collectively.
Well, something that where it's what you guys need too. It's just not something that.
Yeah, part of the challenge with the used truck is that they're all custom, or many of them are custom.
Right.
So you'd be getting a truck configured for some other community, and if they have similar needs, I mean, you can find one, that's great.
Right.
The other thing you have to do is make sure that they're compliant with current NFPA standards. So you can do a refit where it goes to a manufacturer and they update all the safety things and make sure that it's current and up to the latest. But there's a cost with that too. So it's not just the flat cost of the truck. The trucks that you're getting are just as they left, you know, someplace. And so you have to go through the retrofit before you put it in service. You know, the other thing too, Chad, I heard you mention that it was $500,000. That was the estimate. There are financing options, so you don't have to just take the hit all at once.
No, I've been telling them that they're, you know, depending on financing sources, if they decide to go that, I mean, it definitely changes the scope of this budget, but they haven't talked about that yet, so I wasn't able to throw a number into that, so.
Okay. So there's an estimate in the budget proposal for a USDA grant program. It's grants and loans. We're not eligible for the grants because of the median income of our community. I talked to the person from the grant program, and he looked in some other programs for us, and he wasn't able to find any grants that we'd meet. But he did say that we would be eligible for a loan, and the nice thing about the loans is that they can make the terms whatever we want them to be within reason to the life of the equipment. So if we wanted to, extend a loan more than, what we normally would, 15 years instead of 10 or whatever makes it look better for our cash flow, we can do that. they're open to those sorts of things, but we would have to decide how much we would want to put down right away and then how much we want to finance after that.
I know
There's
we've
an
used,
estimate- There's an estimate in the plan, and all I did was just split it in half and just say, if we took it over a certain number of years, that's about what a payment would look like,
Yeah.
so that you could fit into the budget.
my only thing, and maybe you agree, I don't know, but my only thing with a loan at that length of time on an asset like that is generally not a good idea. I would like to see it squished down into a shorter term, if possible. It
It's a-
saves on the interest a little bit. It just makes a little bit more sense to me. I know we've been talking about this for years. The other thing, again, I wanted to reiterate to everybody is that, unfortunately, not this year, but the following year, we're losing a $53,000 payment from off of there. And that could be a really good time to throw a loan in at that point. But I know it means another year for you guys.
If we ordered one, it takes a year to get it.
Yeah, if we ordered a new one, it would take a year.
Yeah.
By the time we spec it all out and everything.
You know,
So timing could be good.
so I know you're due for it, and the board will make the decision on whether or not whatever happens. But I'm just letting you know that that could be a really good time, and then for sure we wouldn't have to look at
Yeah, I forgot about
stretching it out for 20 years. We could do a much shorter loan process on that and keep with the same payment, so taxes stay that status quo.
That's a good idea.
The truck's so expensive, it's hard to,
Well, the trick is, I mean, Chad, you're the expert, but
Yeah.
you're looking at something that depreciates over time and it has a lifespan, and so you don't want to be paying more than paying more than you're depreciating.
Right. You know, so that's my only concern about the 20 years. I mean, the payment looks great, but yeah. So those are options. Again, I don't have any doubt that the one you have is old. It's time to replace. I get it. It's just always difficult finding the funds to do it. So, but we do. Like I said, we have that payment coming off next year. So.
a lot of times when you look at used fire trucks, they put right in there that this truck's not gonna be available for like a year and a half yet. So,
Yeah, they're doing that when someone else has made a purchase. They're trying to sell it for them. A lot of times, I've done some actually digging into ones you see pictures of on the websites,
Yeah.
and half the time they're already sold by the time you see it. So the trick is to kind of get plugged into the network and let people know what you're looking for. But again, you're limited to the supply that's out there. Engines are easier than other trucks, and tenders too.
Is there a resale value on that one at all? Is it worth?
Not much.
Not much.
I would say most, maybe just a guess, but $15,000 would probably be really good.
I know that usually by the time we get rid of them, what is that one already? 30?
This Brindle
4
Mountain place,
years old.
What is it?
34.
34. So
4 years.
this Brindle Mountain, if you go on their website, they got trucks just like this one out here, and they're trying to get like $5,000.
yeah. So I'm going to say usually, so you get if you get the last Ford that we had, I think we donated to Guatemala or something. And by the time we got rid of it, it was
The recommended life is a national standard is 20 years, and then either refit or take out of service. So we've got almost double the service life.
yeah, we got more credit from the government for donating it than we could for selling it. So.
That'd be the only thing to think about with this one compared to that one. This is a 2009, by the time you get it, it's
I don't speak.
after 20 years is
9 years
already.
old already.
I know. Speaking of vehicles as well, I know the maintenance guys have one or maybe two that are getting to be end of life cycle as well. That we should think about.
We talked about that. So I know the utility truck we were planning because
It's not so much.
it has worked out well in that config. Maybe adding a crane to it now with the new lift stations. So how we have them set up, so you could just boom the pumps right out. So that should work well. And within the next year or so, if we replace that, we can probably press that into service on the other side. You think?
But my thought was to refit it to do something else.
Yeah. So there's an option there. I mean, it's all.
Okay. Unfortunately, yeah, I've noticed one of the things that we've lacked is our vehicle schedules or plans. And a lot of them are getting to that time or past. You know, our street sweeper is a money pit right now.
Well, look at our loader, that's getting to be.
Our loader's getting old and we don't have any
17 years old.
contingencies on that as well, so, you know, these are things that we really need to think about and start planning for. But,
You know, the mowers, the same thing, just like what he handed us there.
yep,
So, we'll propose this and do our utility board?
yeah, I mean, if everybody's good with this so far, you have all the info, like I said, come see me if you have any questions. What works for everybody for the next one?
You wanna meet the first week in November? Talk about it again?
Next week?
6 o'clock on, the first Tuesday?
Well, the first Tuesday is gonna be the
Election.
10th,
Oh, yeah.
No.
November 10th,
7th.
or 7th.
November 7th.
11/7 at 6 o'clock? Or do you want me a little earlier, or? Can you make it?
Well, Tuesday, 6 o'clock would be good because we're open till 6, so
Okay,
I agree.
we can just go right for there.
all right. You'd be like you said, better for the public.
Yeah.
On the 7th at 6 o'clock, we'll meet again for this working session budget.
That gives you about a week then to get into me with some maybe some adjusted budget numbers, so we have something that I could throw together, some different numbers, and we'll hopefully get a little closer to that balanced side of things.
So when do you want to find? Is that what we do?
Uh,
Study day next week? Or
November 7th.
You want before then?
Yeah,
Do you
preferably.
want it like a week before or anything?
Or,
Well, if we're doing it on Tuesday, I can put it, if I get them by Monday, the 6th, I can get it through you. If you want them for the weekend, I would suggest getting them to me sooner, so then you can do it, you know, you can look it over for the weekend as well, once everybody's got their new numbers in, or not.
no. Or asking for more.
Or asking for more, I don't know, it might, who knows?
Any more discussion? Kelsey guy? Earl?
All right,
Bob?
No, sir.
Okay, can I get a motion
well,
then?
let's just work on the utility side there.
Okay.
So this one, I didn't get anything from you, so I just put together last year's numbers from,
That's what I was wondering, is the spreadsheet, when I worked on it with Mike, I thought he was just send it over budget-wise. I mean, that was,
well, those were the numbers that I gave him, so they were just from last year's numbers.
oh, yeah, then it's not, it's, I thought he was just, he told me he was just send it over to you.
Oh.
So, I'll have to check with him. But,
Some of the stuff, like the wages and things, are all updated.
it's pretty,
It's pretty much the same, and what I'm looking at here is $82,000 surplus. So I didn't know where in the capital expenditures or any other expenditures to move that to. This one's pretty easy, guys.
yeah, it's pretty,
This is all Bob.
Yeah. You know, like I said, from an expense side, I did another 185,000 for the city for the water or for the sewer.
yeah, we did that, we looked at it, and we just left it. I guess, the biggest thing, you know, with the projects rolling over into this year, you know, paying those off, but we had already budgeted those in over the last 2 years, so.
Yeah.
What it really comes down to, for this budget is that it is self-funding, basically. So we've taken the available revenue or funds and upgraded. The last two will be 7 and 8. It'll be done this year, lift stations. that were part of the initial plan. And then 1 and 2 are the last ones left that are probably going to be the most critical or the most difficult. Number 1 being the one that sends our flow to La Crosse. So that one's going to be expensive, and we had basically extended that out another 8 to 10 years. I just want to make sure there's utility funds in there for whoever gets it. So the key here is we timed that out to be right around the time for incorporation or that referendum. So if city ends up annexing Campbell, how it's set up right now, the utility board can continue on with elected officials from the town.
Right.
So they would still have control of that because we've got a water district and water and sewer utility or district. And it'll be up to the residents of the time of whatever they want to do, but we'll have it potentially funded for whatever it is they want to do going forward. Otherwise, if they choose not to do anything, La Crosse just comes and scoops in all the money and makes it part of theirs. So I hate to raise it too much, or you hate to have that's an expensive project. And if it looks like whatever towards the end, if they want to end up doing a bunch of other stuff, I don't know, whatever the residents want to do strategically, I guess, going forward or at that point, they could decide. But that's kind of how we've been gearing the utility over the last 15 years anyway. It's towards that end point. Because it is somewhat unique in having the ability to continue on, even if the area becomes annexed. But
One thing I've looked at from a budgetary standpoint, and that we've never really collected from, not real sure how y'all feel about this, but some of the projects that have been done in the past here have been paid through general fund, and I don't know if there's a way that we can maybe this year maybe recoup some of that back from the utility side. The building that we just did all came from general fund, but it does house sewer. The parking lot out here, although it is the general fund stuff, sewer trucks use it. So,
Well, I know we've talked about it, and we can go through every item of it, but based on really the agreement and the state, and that. So if you go through, so there's 2 parts to that. It's the state directive and also the agreement with the city of La Crosse. So we collect from city of La Crosse. We have REUs, and they pretty much mandate. So we stipulate to the fact that this money is going to be used for utility. So yeah, I guess go through that. I'm always up for going through it, and I agree. And whenever we had done sewer projects, to try and coordinate that where there's going to be road projects, so that funding comes out of that district. So over the last few years, I know we've definitely done that, taken advantage of that. Beyond that, I don't know what the flexibilities are. I know we've talked about it a million times, but I know also that we are restricted through that agreement on the collection of sewer payments and what it can go for.
right. I would assume that housing of the actual sewer stuff though should be included. I'm
not going to say no. I know that we've talked about it. I just don't know that anybody's ever had a clear answer on whether that counts or not. And that could be a question again going forward, really for the lawyers to look at.
It's just one way to relieve some of the burden, I think, with the general fund right at this point too, if we can do that.
That's kind of been the plan, like with the utility truck and stuff. We buy that, we could use it for
You're right, the utility
multiple
truck.
things, and you just could roll it over. And so,
Okay, it's just a thought. Just wanted
and honestly, you could get, we talked about it a million times. It's got to be careful. It's got to be within the guidelines of the contract.
Right.
So.
Chief Gabriels is on his way. The squad broke down at the county, so he's getting it jumped and he'll be in a few minutes. Just want to let you guys know.
Thanks. Is that the same one that you had to go fix yesterday?
I spent money on it, but I don't know.
The car?
It was not yesterday.
Same one? So, anywho, this one's pretty simple. Like I said, I
It is.
wasn't sure where
There's
you want to put that additional funding.
Oh yeah. So as far as the we've got a rate conversation, rate meeting too.
Yes, that's next. So
So if we close this,
close this out, we can go into that one.
Right.
Yeah. Unless anybody's else got any
any
questions there.
questions, but
Can
kind
I
of
just go to adjourn this then? Or do we need to close? We just go to adjourn?
move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, I'll second that. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, motion carries. Down to the second one, then we'll take a quick break. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. Chad, can you do the roll call?
Supervisor Craig,
Here.
Supervisor Thorne,
Here.
Chairman Schaller,
Here.
and Supervisor Wolford,
Here.
and Supervisor Bromer again is still excused.
Can I get a motion to go into public comment?
So moved.
I have a motion by Bob, second by Ralph. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Anybody? Bruce, got anything for us?
For utility,
Yeah, it'd be the,
Rate increase for the utility.
you proposing to raise the rate?
Yep.
I always wonder back, when I was on the utility before, why we raised it, and the next year I was voted out, you got in, and right away you rolled it back. I think all that money, all these years, will look pretty good right now for sewer projects.
Well, we've actually been pretty good. We've
Well, they go towards doing 1 and 2, and they're the two big ones. I know when I was on the board before, Mr. Davies said it's gonna be at least $1 million to redo number 1.
Yep.
And all this money, all these years, would sure look good in that account right now to go towards that.
Well, we have the funding to do it right now, if we wanted to. I'm holding off because it's a big investment, more strategically than anything, and we've got the time. And in fact, I've probably heard more complaints the other way about why am I paying so much in utility when you've got $2 million in there in the fund? Why are you charging us?
There's a lot of pipe work that can be done too over there.
Well, I'm just telling you what the constituents. So it's not up to me; it's up to the voters. And we rolled it back. We were able to accomplish all the lift station upgrades with the funding as it was, with the payments that they were collecting, and still put money again this year, $80,000 back into the fund. So it's been a well-balanced budget, along with the projects and the things that we've been able to do in improvements in the utility, stuff that hadn't been done in 30 years.
There hasn't been any pipelining done over here, and there's a lot of roots and a lot of problems with it.
I would,
We're lucky we haven't had any backups.
well, that may be speculative, but part of the
All you
maintenance,
gotta do is have them video and camera, and it's all there.
We-
The age of the sewer is, will tell you what's going on.
it's a consistent program, and the maintenance guys have done a great job of it, actually keeping track of where the problem areas are.
They don't have any camera to do the video of them.
We have
I haven't seen them over here.
videotape run. We have contractors coming and give us videotape of that. And actually, cameras on our own jetter has been one of the goals that we've been looking at as well. So as they jet, to videotape it as we go. So it's actually part of the ongoing conversations we've been having. So we really have not had any big issues, I would say, that I'm aware of, other than folks with their lateral. And that's more private or old connections that were put in prior to me that have either settled or gone bad. So,
Just lucky nothing has happened.
or good maintenance program. So, anybody else?
got anything else for us, Bruce?
You know,
Okay. Lee, got anything for us? On the sewer rate? No? All right. Can I get a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
I'll second that. I got a motion by Bob, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We'll move down to business for a discussion and possible action regarding sewer rates for 2018.
So it's a $5 increase to $225. I mean, rounded up. $224.96 is what it came out to, and part of that was based on the residential equivalency usage change or audit, I guess, worksheet. And there's been some changes there. So City of La Crosse has raised their rates. We had to redo. We've had to fix our flow meter on the main, and reflected a more accurate reading on which was basically a higher flow. So we knew that was bad for a while. We ended up having to pay the newer rate. So anyway, we've still been pretty well balanced. Like you said, we still have $80K in there, but looking forward, if there is lift station 1 and 2 to be funded, we have the funding for that, but want to make sure there's still funding for anything else that may happen in the next 10 years or however folks decide to do it in 10 years. So really, we broke it up, $5 this year, $5 next year, and that rate will be equivalent to, Bruce brought it up, that rate just brings us back to what the sewer rate was that was being charged 15 years ago. So basically what it comes down to.
It's 220 right now, correct?
220.
220.
Yep.
And you want to raise it 5 this year and 5 next year?
That is correct. We could do all 10 this year if everybody wants, but
They're taking away 2 beers from me every year.
that would have been 15 years worth of 2 beers.
But you brew your own, so.
Yeah. Anyway,
I couldn't drink 15 years.
so
Legally.
right, so that brings it back to basically 2001, whatever, 2000 pricing is what it's doing.
Got anything else for us then?
That is it. That's the summary of it.
We need a motion to accept that then. don't we?
We do.
Yes.
Also, I want to ask, so are we actually going to do these projects then? So the money's going to get used, it's not just going to sit around?
That's correct. So
Like, I mean, is it going to be done within the next couple of years so people can actually see that it's happening? Or is it going to be like, oh, it's going to happen? And
2025 is the scheduled date for lift station 2 and 2028 for 1.
So we're going to take an extra $10 for the 2025.
The goal is to get that 900,000 in reserve so we can pay cash.
sure, they don't have to, bond for the money.
Bond it. And
$5 is $5.
when you talk to other people, I know Mike he's ecstatic. He loves our utility. He brags about how well we've done over the years to maintain funds at a level that we have. You know, he's worked with other municipalities that aren't anywhere near this kind of solvent. So you guys have done a really good job, I guess, of maintaining funds and maintaining the system. So.
There's an article in the Tribune about that, and I gave it to you.
What's that?
That article I brought in, it was in the Tribune,
Yeah.
where
Yep.
they didn't have any money for maintenance guys to work on it. So
Most smaller utilities have smaller communities have no reserve fund whatsoever.
Right.
I'm not questioning the awesome job that they do. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know.
So
Someone's got to be the mean one, and it's always got to be me.
yep, no, it's so the city has raised their rates. We just have absorbed those into the utility the last couple times when they didn't raise our rate. So it's a complex agreement because we have City of La Crosse people in our district that we're collecting from, and you want to make sure that they're paying somewhat close, even though it's still going to be less than what they're paying for City of La Crosse.
Oh, by far.
Dramatically less. So you couple that with trying to balance out expenses and whatnot, but the reality of it is there's a couple things, and we have spent $1 million out of it doing all the lift stations the last few years. We're always open to, there's things that are less glamorous than a lift station replacement, which Bruce brought up, pipelining. I know we did Pierce Street and other ones, and so those things are always there. And then the utility trucks. So if you put a couple of those in there, you're running at break even or less is where I'm saying right now. We had an $80,000 surplus, but you're gonna get to a point where it's gonna be break even or loss.
Right.
So that's why we, at this point, and part of the agreement, City of La Crosse, and part of the whole REU, we've had businesses change or come and go off the utility district as well. So that changes their revenue. And so, those are things you just don't control. But part of that offset or part of that revenue, that's where you do that REU calculation and do the rates. So.
Anything wrong? Okay.
So we're not gonna raise the rates anymore after 2019 then?
Well, I'm going to say this. I have no plans to do it. After 2019, you said?
Well, because you said 2018 you want to put it up 5, and then the next year you want to put it up 5, or a total of 10.
You're assuming I'll have control over that, but I'm going to say yes. No, we're not going to raise the rates.
I'm just thinking for the present.
Is that?
I'm just thinking right now, not.
I will
Consider your
absolutely.
position next year
I'll
if you
absolutely
want.
stipulate to that fact.
I would say maybe agree. As long as something catastrophic
Yeah.
doesn't happen to the system, there shouldn't be any reason. That's the purpose of Mike's spreadsheet here. It basically breaks down relative cost. But 20.
I understand the point of the spreadsheet, and I get that. I just am looking at.
Yeah, it's just. I'm going to use the stock market, Kelsey. Future performance is based on previous whatever or can't be guaranteed.
This 2028 lift station 1 and 4 at 900,000. In 5 years, that price could be 1.4, and we need to raise the rates because now again we're not collecting enough. So, I guess we don't know what it's going to cost in 5 years for that lift station.
We've got unless something were to change dramatically, but we've got a pretty good history right now where we've been able to run them. Originally we started doing it, they had it up around $600K per lift station. Mm-hmm. And we've been able to get it down to about 200, 2 or 3, depending on the area.
We just did the 2 for 4, so it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. So,
Just asking.
Davey Engineering's the one that recommended the raise, correct?
Yes.
well, we do the calculation, the REU calculation. No, their rate was actually recommended higher, just for the record.
All right.
Yeah, it was more than that.
Okay.
So,
So somebody want to make a motion?
and they base it on what Chad said. Mm-hmm. They're basing it on other communities and what people are paying and City of La Crosse people are paying versus so. It's legit what they were talking about. It's just that we looked at it, and looking at it, and you guys have all brought it up.
Right.
$5 and $5, and it's still $5 people. So, anyway.
All right.
So I'm going to move to approve the $5 increase. It's rounded up to $5 from $4.96. So for the utility.
Go ahead.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Bob and a second by Ralph. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Can I get a motion for adjournment, please?
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion by Ralph and second by Bob. Any further discussion? Call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. That concludes our business.
So I'll apologize to the board.